This is a Nissan 350Z, and as ever, we're going to show you all the common problems and what you need to know when you're looking to buy a used one. Let's go. So the eagle-eyed amongst you may have already noticed this is no ordinary Nissan 350Z. This is a 380 RS, the creme de la creme of 350Zs. Only 300 of these were made, so I'm super excited to be able to use this to give you your 350Z buyer's guide. So first, let's talk about everything you need to know in the engine. So I'm not able to make this video without mentioning who's made it possible for us today, and that is Imagine Build Race, who also have their own YouTube channel. You can go and hit them up, see what they're up to, and follow all the crazy 350Zs that they're building in this absolute mecca of 350Zs. But for now, let's concentrate on the engines and what you need to know when you're looking to buy one. So engine wise, there's a few differences just depending on the model year that you are looking to buy. So let's begin at the beginning. 2002 to 2005, you're going to get a DE engine car. What does that mean? Well, 276 brake horsepower, and a nice little bonus as well is that's old enough that it slips into the lower tax bracket here in the UK, so you're going to save a little bit of money there as well. Now those engines also only have the single air intake, so it's quite popular with tuners, makes it a little bit easier for supercharging and things like that. Fast forward to 2005, 2006, we got the DE rev-up engine. Now that boosted power to 296 brake horsepower. However, these engines got a little bit of a bad rap because of their oil usage. Now what that meant is you had to take a little bit more care in terms of making sure that all those levels were on point, and some owners didn't, therefore a bunch of these engines failed and they got that bad reputation. But in reality, it's a great engine. You just need to be careful to make sure it's been maintained properly, and that little bit more care has been taken to make sure that oil level has been kept topped up. Finally, we have the HR engine, made from 2006 to 2008, largely considered to be the best for the platform, and 310 brake horsepower. It was also most powerful. Now the only problem you need to be aware of here is they share a problem that some of the early 370Zs had, and that was with the gallery gaskets. Now if they haven't been replaced, regardless of age or mileage, they're going to need done. Budget in £800 to £1,000 for that. That's a great thing you can bring into the negotiation with the seller, keep yourself a bit of money back. Now before we move on, keep that bonnet up and have your friend or owner start the car up whilst you listen to the engine. Two things we're looking for here. Number one, we want to make sure it idles and revs lightly, smoothly. The crankshaft position sensors were common to let go on these, and when they did, the idle and small revs would become quite lumpy. Number two, listen for a distinctive tapping coming from the engine. If you're hearing that, chances are the fuel dampeners require replacing, and they're about £300 or £400 each. Next up, let's talk bodywork. But before we do, a favour to ask from you guys: if you're enjoying this video and getting value from it, please hit the like button so that other prospective buyers can find the video as well. And also consider subscribing. We create buyer's guides for every type of car, so no matter what you're looking to buy next, we've got you covered. Now next up, let's talk bodywork. And as I spin round here, we just so happen to have a beautiful Nismo alongside our 380 RS. We're absolutely spoiled for choice here today. And the bodywork happens to be sublime. But let me add in some examples of the bad bodywork that I'm going to talk about as well. Now specifically, the areas we want to be looking at here is around about the arches and underneath the car. Now what you want to do is have a good check round these, apply gentle pressure, make sure nothing's crumbling. Underneath specifically, well, let's talk about what we need to look at there.
Ready. Action.
Where's the action call?
Action. And action.
Now how better to address the areas that you need to check underneath the car than to show you one on the ramp. So follow me here. We'll move past the beautiful Nismo onto this equally beautiful 350Z that we've got on the ramp here, and let me show you the areas that you want to try and check. Obviously you're not going to have a ramp like this, but do what you can, have a look underneath. If you can get the car jacked up a little bit, then ideal. So this here, the W bracket, is one area you definitely need to check. These tend to rot out. This one is an aftermarket one that you could fit to the one that you're looking at. Now beyond that, where these connect to are what's called the kidney brackets. These are right here. These are pretty easy to see when the car's on the ground, and have a look at them. They're so thin that they tend to just rot through and require replacing. So check these two areas specifically, as well as just having a good look underneath at the subframe, suspension, have a good look at everything basically. So suspension wise, these cars might be starting to get a little bit tired. Some of them are getting on for 20 years old, so we can hardly blame them. On that test drive, listen out carefully. Anything that you hear sounds a little bit loose, anything that's knocking, these are great points to bring up with the seller. It's not the end of the world for you to get fixed, but allows you to save a little bit of money, keep it back, and get the car sweet in your possession. Now there's one area in particular I'd like to highlight for you, and it's these, they're called the banana arms on the front. If you're hearing knocking coming from the front, it's probably these arms, or more specifically, it's the bushes fitted within these arms that are probably starting to let go. These can be had for about 150 to 200 pounds per side. So next up, let's talk interiors. First thing before we even get in, pull the door, make sure the window drops down just a little bit to allow it to clear the rubber. As we get in here, you want to have a look at the general condition. Now obviously this car is exceptionally nice, but have a look at the door cards, the centre console. Some of these can get a little bit tatty before their time, and obviously it should all just tally up to the amount of miles that's on the car that you're looking at. Now when you're actually in here, you want to get the ignition on, have a play with all the electrics. It's prudent to do that on any used car anyway. Pay particular attention to the windows. Make sure they go fully down, fully back up. Maybe try that a couple times, as the window motors can be a little bit notorious. Now finally, let's talk transmissions. First up, the gearbox. Now particularly if you're buying a pre-2005 car, you want to make sure to get it through a full heat cycle, get the car fully up to temperature on that test drive, and test every single gear. On quicker gear changes, make sure it feels slick and smooth. Those pre-2005 cars, as I say specifically, had issues with the synchro meshes wearing out, and gears would start to feel a little bit obstructed, or they would even grind in bad cases. So make sure that's not the case with the one you're looking at. Don't get me wrong, these gear changes do require a firm hand to change, but it should never feel obstructed, and it should certainly never make any grinding noises. Now on that test drive, slow things down a little bit, start doing some manoeuvring, and listen to the rear. Listen out for a clicking, which is likely coming from the drive shafts. Now this is not a big problem, don't worry, it tends to just mean the splines need re-greased. Not a big issue, but again, something you can bring up with the seller, bring into the bargain. Now let's see how the 350Z shapes up in a reliability leaderboard.
Action, take 58.
So the Nissan 350Z, how does it shape up on a reliability leaderboard? Well, there's a good reason these cars are still so sought after on the used market. It's because it's a proper driver's car, yet has a great level of reliability. Now, despite the early cars having some gearbox problems, some other small issues, and the ongoing rust problems, we're awarding this a massive 8.5 out of 10. Now, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.